There are two different components. One is I've worked for the federal government and I have the element that relates to being a civil servant of the year as a leader, as a servant manager, and I bring that in with that perspective. Second component is I went to the 50 best places to work in America. I asked them what they do. They worked with me. And I took their ideas, coupled with what I had done, and put that into the book, The Servant Manager. So it's a unique aspect that I'm incorporating best practices from one location in government, best practices in another location with the best places to work in America, and I provide folks with information that's not just a to-do list, but actual actionable items they can carry out with their team to give leadership and opportunity to their employees and to their managers. Folks who are in service industries that are looking for succession planning. That could be CPA firms, that could be law firms, that could be any type of service entity. Then I'd also come back and say, it really doesn't matter. You could be a manufacturer. You could be involved in any sort of activity. We tend to take our technical people, or the top technical people, and immerse them into a leadership role. And we don't provide them with the tools to help them be successful. This book provides those kind of tools. When I think of a feedback that I got from an executive secretary who said, my boss, the executive, bought the book and he just gave it to me. And I looked at the book and she came back and said to me, thank you, because I love my boss. I love my job. I love the people I work with. My boss has some issues. I've looked at what's in your book and having read what's there, there are things that we can do as a team with our boss that are not going to be negatively received and can be presented in a neutral fashion and make things better for us as a team. I take that same example, that could be done in a place of worship, that could be done where you're part of a team for something for fun, that can be done at work, and it can apply in any type of an environment. Enhancing effectiveness, time management, and communication. I spoke with folks that were at smaller firms, but CFOs and executives in smaller companies in the Twin Cities and in Atlanta. And I asked them, what's most important to you? And in both locations, I gave them the 16 chapters of the book. And they came back to me in both locations and said, enhancing effectiveness, communication elements, and time management. So I work with some folks who are in neuroscience. It's well beyond me. And they talked about what goes on in our brains and what we can do with respect to these kinds of issues. So I took the elements I've learned from this group I work with in neuroscience, and I took the elements from the book that I have on those kind of topics, and I give the highlights of those, and then I encourage folks to not just go with what I've told them, rather take the tips that we've talked about, and you can actually implement those with your team. They think they're communicating very effectively, and their employees say, no way. They delegate things, but they don't delegate effectively, taking into account the emotion, the physical, and the intellectual components that go with that. They don't have the authority necessarily. There tends to be too much one-way communication. So instead of having real listening and understanding, leaders tend to say, this is what we're going to do, we're all on board, great, let's go. But they didn't necessarily bring everybody else on board. So listening effectively are key components. Because this series takes those three major components I've just talked about, enhancing effectiveness, time management, and communication, provides the key components that they can use today in their group and make their group and their firm that much more effective.